Whereas, hey everybody, welcome back to The Collective. We have an awesome show planned out for you today, and today, special little treat. Not only do we have Steve as a guest, we have Seb back to back, but we also have the technology that I've been able to pull all the imagery from your Instagram and put it up on the thing. So now we can have the full version of it. So
we've got a full
actually read
pitch
it
deck
as well as work
Let's
on
sell this thing.
right. And before we go anywhere, I do want to remind everybody, make sure you like the show, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell so you get your email every day as we go live. Steve, first off,
Yes.
thanks for joining us, man. I really appreciate it. For those that don't know, Steve was in the U.S. Army for 6 years as an engineer and as a and became a King County deputy, and then joined the SWAT team on there. Was there for 19 years. So badass dude all around. Wicked. We have a couple comments, and we're going to review kind of what we did yesterday, so you're up to speed on it, and then we will continue on the path. Did you get to watch yesterday's show at all, or no?
I did not.
Okay, cool. So we'll get you.
Bro,
we'll get
you're in trouble. Oh boy,
I'll get caught up pretty quick.
Yeah. So quick chunk of comments. Just want to hit these. Jassa, good morning, good afternoon. Daniel, hey, hey Daniel, how you doing? And he is sore. Okay, they're chirping in the background. 3 days post surgery, good for you.
Nice.
And KH checking in, Chance. Awesome, good to see you, buddy. So what we did yesterday, we spoke about. Well, Shaun, why don't you give us a little rundown, or give Steve a little rundown of what you did, and then I'll post it up so we can talk about it.
Sure, I'll do it in less than 60 seconds.
All right, I'm timing.
The start.
I already did.
Have I lost 5 seconds already? So the idea was that I'd sat down and I was reading a book called The Hagakure. You've probably heard of it. It's over 300 years old. It's just one of several books, many books that I've read over the decades. And, you know, there's tons of good information in every book out there, Sun Tzu and Miyamoto Musashi, etc. And it's for us to interpret it. And I feel like I've been interpreting those kind of books for a long, long time. And I'm still not as far ahead as I want to be. So I sat down and I thought about it and considered, hey, like I read these books all the time. What about the first time reader who's picking up the Hagakure for the first time? Like, how's that going to look for them? It's going to be hard. So I thought what I'd do is I'd take all of the books that I've read over the years, some little bit of wisdom that I've got or experience or knowledge from all the people that I've bumped into, and then distill it all down into a very simple concept of a 3-category area in respect to the warrior way. And it was the martial arts philosophy, the military doctrine, and the personal development. And so I thought, well, a lot of my friends from back in the day from the military, they for sure understand the military doctrine aspect to some degree. Not all of them have done martial arts for sure, but they're all definitely on a personal development path now, whether they know it or not. The moment that you bounce out of the military, or for that matter, while you're in the military, you should be on a personal development path. But once you bounce out of the military, there's no more military doctrine, baby. You're not in that game anymore. You can try to keep your head in it, but you're not doing it. And so fill that space with personal development. And so I listed off 7 subcategories within the personal development of the warrior way. We covered 4 yesterday. We've got 3 to cover today. It was never my intention to cover any of this. It was just my idea to capture some of this down in a simple form, to put it out there to the internet on my goofy little IG page so we could start some conversation. But Seb and Chance said, hey, let's do this. And after the fact, like by the end of the podcast yesterday, I was like, dang, that was a good idea that we covered that. So I'm glad we did. And I'm glad we're going to kick into the next 3 today.
That's cool.
Yeah. 2.5 minutes.
Sorry, pal. Once I got rolling, I thought I better add some meat and potatoes to this just in case, not for Steve, because I know he picks up on things quick. I thought I'd add a little bit more for someone who's stepping into this podcast for the first time. Didn't see part 1 like Steve, and they're jumping into part 2, and now they've got some context to the whole thing.
Although it was my birthday yesterday, so that's why.
It's almost a good excuse.
All right.
Yeah, I'm down with it. Okay, so let's we'll dive
Happy
into
birthday, by the way. Sorry.
Yeah, happy birthday, bro.
Thanks.
Let's hit a couple of these points here. I just wanted to dive into these on a larger scale here. So, isn't it pretty now? I can get
It's
the
beautiful,
whole thing
brother.
up there.
Well done.
Yeah,
Wow.
awesome. So it says, in the context of personal development, the Warrior's Way emphasizes cultivating specific qualities and adopting certain principles to navigate life's challenges. The Warrior's Way involves adopting a mindset and approach that promotes growth, resilience, and self-improvement. Here are some key principles associated with personal development in the Warrior's Way. Strength and resilience. The Warrior's Way encourages individuals to develop physical and mental strength as well as emotional resilience. This involves training the body to be strong and healthy while also developing mental fortitude to withstand adversity and bounce back from setbacks. Any thoughts or anything you want to add on to that, Steve?
No, dude, that's awesome. That's kind of like what I do for my motivational consulting. I work mindset a lot. We find a lot of people that have dedicated themselves to something physical or a career-driven path. They have the qualities because they've built those skills along the way. But the mindset is what stops them from pushing further. And they'll rationalize with themselves, hey, I should probably, it's not going to work. There's too many people they put so much in their head. So I like this stuff a lot. I mean, I raised 2 daughters. You can see them back there in the background. They're CrossFit athletes. We travel the world competing in CrossFit. Nice. And I've worked their mindset since they were real little. And I really like that stuff. That's actually really good.
Solid.
Yeah, and I'd like to add to that, if you don't mind.
Yeah, by all means.
This is for Steve. Steve, I rarely know who the guest is going to be. In fact, maybe once every month, I'll know who the guest might be. And so what I did have the advantage of today was I knew that you were going to be the guest because Chance Burrows put out the rock concert poster just a little bit early. So I went and lurked on your page there just a bit, sniffed around, and I noted that your 2 girls are killing it. And so here's what I thought. I quickly backtracked and watched the evolution of the girls. I mean, like I was spending 5 seconds on each sort of just to get a sense of things. Right. And I can see that you've raised them with the right mindset. Those are my 2 boys in that photo. Yeah. And that was my first effort at trying to become a world champion in 24-hour solo mountain bike racing. So that was 2007. And so by 2009, I was a world champion. Awesome. But my boys have been raised just like your 2 girls in that same sort of mindset. So I think it's really important from a young age, just as you made the point just now, that it's our job to set their goals for them at an early age, teach them how to use their minds to achieve the outcomes that have been set for them.
There's so much more advances now as far as what you can give your kids as far as the why and building your kid to be better further on down the line, because strength, the byproduct of strength is compassion, and you breed that into your kids at a young age. They don't ever lose sight what they want to go for. You build them strong. The opposite of weak is not compassion. You don't get compassion from weakness. So don't build weak kids. But what you're saying with your kids is driving them and teaching them and growing them and giving them a purpose in life. We developed a career-driven path for the girls. They physically got to write down and pick what they wanted to do. And they picked 3 things: soccer, CrossFit, and horses. Because we live on a small ranch out here. We raise beef cows. My wife played semi-pro soccer. She played soccer in college. And we came out to be CrossFit #1. So we prioritized out of those 3 and put more effort in CrossFit. And we just built them from there. And it was a long road to get where we're at. I got kind of caught up sometimes into this little quick instant win. And I had to step back and realize that we're in it for the long haul. So far, 19 and 17 today, no injuries, significant injuries, and they're still plugging away.
Yeah, they look strong and they look like they're in the game. But what I saw in every single little blip that I took a look at was their mind. It's their mind. I can see your work in your girls. That's awesome.
I appreciate it, man. Thank you very much.
That's wicked. Seb, you have anything to add, or good to move on?
Yeah, the girls are savages. We can move on now. They actually are. I've been following them for years, and it's
cool.
Well, we're going to be up in Canada here in September.
Brother.
We're going to link up with Seb up there.
Yeah, Roger.
My daughter's competing up there.
Nice.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Number 2, discipline and self-control. Practicing discipline and self-control is essential in the warrior's way. It involves setting clear goals, establishing routines, and having the willpower to follow through with actions that align with those goals. By cultivating discipline, individuals can develop habits that support their personal growth and overcome challenges. I think that's kind of what you were just talking about, like raising your kids with that. But you got anything to add or anything more, Steve?
The thing about there's that, I like the discipline. The discipline is done every single day, creating those habits, completing those tasks every day. The motivation will always back up discipline. It's not the other way around. So what I've built the girls to do is get discipline throughout their process of building themselves. It's every single day. We all get it. Sometimes you don't want to go to the gym, and so you go anyway, and then you feel better. But as they build those traits, that's so strong that their internal dialogue for motivation will help them when they're on the stadium floor by themselves. They won't try to seek external motivation. And I mean by external is when I'm out there or someone's out there like cheering them on, and we all know the false motivation, like, go on, you can do it. Come on. But I don't believe in that false motivation. But I want them to find their strength from within, and I'll be their backup with extra little motivation, external side. But it's mostly driven by them.
I like that.
Dude,
Shaun?
you're currently like, you're competing for Father of the Year right now. And you better stop, because I'm about to drop into skirmish mode and go head to head with you.
It's going to be on real soon.
That's awesome, bro. I love that. That was freaking fantastic. Good for you.
Yeah,
Anything
we have.
Sorry, go ahead. You go ahead, Steve.
Just my wife's a whole part of this thing too, because it's having girls, right? They do need a strong father figure, but they need a strong mother. And we never delineated between the two. By human nature, the girls will pick a hierarchy, but we don't showcase it. So we do everything equally. So basically, if I speak, it's the right hand of God speaking. If she speaks, it's like the right hand of God speaking, and they know it. And so with that, there's no gap in our leadership. There's no offset, because we're on a unified front with each other. And the girls every kid will try to push the boundaries when they're very young, and they'll find that gap, and they'll just the gap will get bigger. So we just keep that unified front. And I've had absolute zero major issues from 0 to 19.
That's wicked.
Yeah.
Again, I don't like it.
All right.
Sorry, there's some I'd like to add to this.
By all
So
means.
in following the journey of the girls, and I think there's a ton of value in that. The goal setting and the mindset and all those things were one thing, but all of this was interwoven in an incredible work regimen that wasn't only limited to CrossFit. I mean, they were driving tractors. They were building stuff. They're doing, construction work. They're freaking, like, they are always engaged in something. And the skill set that is being provided to them is so well-rounded. It is absolutely asinine. And in fact, you're probably working yourself out of a job, Steve, and which is the plan. This is what we should strive for, to have them completely self-sufficient as early as possible in life. So that way, if anything happens, they can carry on and be successful. I just, man, it's been absolutely amazing to watch this unfold.
So Seb, you're absolutely right.
What is this sound?
I got a background as always. Sorry.
Oh.
Sorry about that.
Neighbor's lawn is quite large.
On that, where we built the girls to be self-sufficient. In the CrossFit, I've always told them the dedication you show in CrossFit will transcend life. So the adversity you hit in gym, it makes you more flexible in life to create an ability to get around something that doesn't go your way when it comes for you. Mm-hmm. But I've always wanted to be known, and I'm sure you can relate to seeing guys across your career paths. They were known as them, like that guy. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I think you have to be good. But I wanted to be known for my family. And because our family was always built from ground zero to be a team. Your kids introduce the world. You are your kids' very first team. So teach them how to operate within a team, how their needs become second behind the team's needs. So our priorities in life are family, do good in school, and everything that you do, whatever you choose to do, don't ever quit and give 100%. But they understand everything is done to benefit the family. And so with that, the girls carry more ownership of providing and helping for the family, for the team to grow, and it builds individual strength. That's the byproduct of all that. So as the kids go out, what they do is they've created all that strength on their own. They can operate on their own, but they always can come back to the team because the team is strong. If you break the foundation with the team, whatever kids get in trouble and stuff like that, when they leave, they try to come back. You can't really, you're still trying to fix stuff, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, that's legit.
Mm-hmm. Great points.
Amazing.
Anything to add before we continue on?
I love all these, dude. These are good. I like them.
That's a great point. We were saying that basically the whole time yesterday. We're just like, man, these are really good.
Yeah, they're awesome. They're awesome. More people need to connect with this type of stuff.
Agreed.
Number 3, emotional intelligence. Warriors understand the importance of emotional intelligence. They seek to develop self-awareness, empathy, and the ability to manage their own emotions effectively. This enables them to navigate relationships, communicate assertively, and handle conflicts with grace and understanding. I just really love that. Such clean writings, John.
Mm-hmm.
Well done.
Thanks, man.
Steve, any thoughts on that?
Well, one thing, what hits me here is the ability to manage their own emotions. So when a kid is young, right, they go through life and they don't know how to manage their emotions. So they either yell or scream, or they get upset and they don't know how to shelve their emotions. So one way that you get to figure that out, especially like in the military or SWAT, if you're not trained, you get experience. So the first time that you're taking an armed suspect down and you're telling them to drop the gun, you're sitting there screaming so loud that even your partners don't know what you're talking about. They can't even hear you because you're screaming. So through experience, you'll learn to calm your voice, to speak more clearly and more directly. So we taught the girls at a very young age to emotionally check their emotions while they're lifting. So example is the girls would lift and you would see the pain on their face, but that you could see where the pain would override their emotion, and they would get mad in the workout. And we figured out that, you know, over the years, if you fight the workout's always going to win.
Mm-hmm.
So we that takes a long time, but like I didn't have that growing up. I mean, I didn't have that understanding of that. So what I did is I took the things that I didn't have and I filled in the gaps as best I could with my girls now. Mm-hmm. I really like that they're able to navigate their emotions. Big.
Yeah, totally agree. I try to do the same for my boys. Anytime they start to lose it, anytime they start to get riled up emotionally, and I'm like, okay, let's stop, take a breath, let's focus on what the problem is, and I help them regulate themselves, and then we can figure out the problem is, rather than have them just freak out and run off. And
man, face the problem. Don't run from the problem. Our girls have never gone to their room, not once. Never gone to the room. They faced the problem there, and we figured out how to make our way through something. So that way, when they hit adversity out there, they don't try to run from it. They face it.
Yeah. And you know, that's an important lesson, not only for your girls, but for their entire peer group. So yes. The first thing that came to mind as I was rereading this thing was an image of our 2 boys. They're fairly active. And when they were young, they were Nordic racers, Nordic skiing, skate, and classic. And in our town, we have a national level Nordic ski terrain. And there was a race there, and they've raced lots. And as the kids at their age, 8, 9, 10, 11 years old, they come tearing across the finish line. And the moment they get a half an inch across the finish line, they throw themselves into the air and land on the ground and make it a big dramatic moment, as if they just put every ounce of effort into it. They can barely breathe now because they went so hard. And, first time I saw that, I looked down at the kid and thought, oh, my boys are not going to be doing that. And as I was thinking that, the next little kid that came around the corner and got across the finish line saw what was up. What did that kid do? Landed in the other direction and sprawled out like, where's my hot chocolate? And kid after kid, it was like a lumber pile at one point. And I thought, that is never going to fly with my kids. I had to have a conversation with them. I know all your friends are doing it, but you're not going to do it. And here's why. And so it's important for not only us to pass it on to our kids, but we're trying to change the external culture out there, not just our own internal family culture. We're trying to manage the larger expectations of society all around us. The moment that you give it a half an inch, society will take a mile. It'll be a lumber pile of kids that you can't see the top of the pile. So, I think it's part of our job to sort of correct this to some degree.
Totally.
100%. I absolutely agree.
Yeah.
Really interesting on that. So I feel left out. So I'll jump in with my girls. Like the girls, my oldest Abby was a national gymnast. She's broken her back, so that ship has sailed. But my daughter Kira is a high level competitor. She's been training she's actually a dancer, but she's been training for like since she was 3. Basically, she's 14 and she trains like 5-6 hours a day every day. She's just a savage. But anyways. The point I was going to make is that my daughter Abby used to clean up in gymnastics competitions. Like her thing was winning. Like she just loved to win. But the thing that made me the proudest about those two is they could lose, and that's something that we really worked on, because I didn't want to have any of that, self-pity as something doesn't go the way you want it to, or whatever the case may be. So it's return to the drawing board, make the corrections, and go back and do what it is that sometimes you win some, you lose some, but you're competing. It's being in the arena and stressing that, that approach to life. But then also when she won, there was no walking around with a medal. I never allowed that. It's like, take your medal, go in the mirror, have a look at it, contemplate it, take it, put it in your bag. Do not walk around, the gym with your medals hanging in your neck. And that was just something for me. And I've seen a lot of kids do it. We'd be going for lunch, or we'd be going with the parents after, and the kids would be rocking their medals all day while they're, walking around milking that moment. What this does is create such a dopamine hit for them. Like, it's really hard to match the throff that comes along with that. So for me, it was all about controlling and regulating not only their emotions, their negative emotions, but also their positive emotions. Because how do you uphold that? And if you lose next time, what happens to that throff? So anyways, it's just an interesting little subtlety. But my daughter Abby, after years, she'd be getting on the podium, she'd get her medal, take it down, roll it, put it in her bag immediately. There was never walking around with that.
I like that a lot. I like that a lot. Yeah. All right, let's move on to number 4, emotional resilience. And Steve, I'm just gonna keep you muted until you need to say something, just the background noise, so it doesn't get too much. Number 4, emotional resilience. Warriors understand the value of emotional resilience in the face of adversity. They cultivate the ability to bounce back from setbacks, learn from failures, and maintain a positive mindset. Emotional resilience allows warriors to face challenges with courage and maintain a sense of balance and composure. Nice and crisp again. Steve, any thoughts on that one?
Yeah. So, I speak about my girls because that's who I work with mostly, but I work with clients, like high-level clients, high-level football players, etc. But with this here, the adversity, I spent the girls at CrossFit when we started beginning CrossFit, and I told them, your first understanding of adversity and overcoming it is in the gym. So you go in there, an example, you can't deadlift 95 pounds, but it's through your own development and listening to a coach to get stronger. And then the next week you can lift that 95 pounds. So you've overcome something that you couldn't do. And so that's where it transcends all of life. It just doesn't work in the gym. It works out anyhow out here on the ranch. We're doing something on a fence, and one of the girls can't get it. We learn how to do it. They overcome it. They learn how to do it, and they fix the fence or anything that you want to put that towards. Mm-hmm. Learning to bounce back. I call it being flexible. So going about something, it doesn't go your way. It hits different, and you're like, uh-oh, now what? And some people will just get stuck, right? That whole, it didn't go this way. There's analytical people, and they're like, what? And I taught the girls, like, if it didn't go, find another way. It's that simple. But I never elevated like, we can't do this. It's not working. Oh my gosh. I would just tell them, like, find another way. Mm-hmm. Simple, make it simple. Simplicity will always overrule complexity. And so that's what I try to do with the girls and all of my clients, as I work everything down from complexity and I make it simple for them. Because one of the terms that I use is like, I'll ask them if they want to drink a water, and they'll instantly either say yes or no, and I'll ask them why. They say no, it's because they're thirsty. I said, that's how easy life is. See how fast you decided that, like, you didn't want to drink water? Like, don't over complex things, make things more simple, and just keep driving. So I really like these a lot.
Well, this is where we got to yesterday. So Seb or Shaun, you got any points to add on to this, or should we dive into
No, just a little bit on what Steve was saying there, because yesterday we were talking a little bit about being action oriented, trying to reduce that loop between you do something and you have a win or a loss or whatever the case is. And the moment that you do it, you then assign another thing a year from now. And that's not a trend. That's not how you form patterns. If you want to become action oriented, you've got to make faster decisions and faster action. So to Steve's point, which was excellent, are you thirsty? Why? So now you're getting someone to a branching decision, making them own the left or right, and then letting them go down that left or right direction based on their immediate response, which should be pretty freaking immediate. We're supposed to be all action oriented, not thought oriented, and I'll maybe action it a few days from now. So, Steve, that glass of water moment, that's freaking legit.
I use the same thing as what you're saying. We call it live life through action. So the mind is the theory piece. They plan for something, and then you have to do action to get it done, like i.e. task. And so the world does not turn on theory, and it's not static. It's moving. So the action moves the world. I like that.
Legit.
I love it. All right, let's. Seb, yeah.
Yeah, just one thing I really like about this is essentially what you're doing is coupling decisiveness with accountability, you know, and that's, if you can be very decisive and if you're not accountable for the decisions that are being made, we have a problem, because you're going to be making all kinds of rash decisions or all kinds of decisions, and if those decisions backfire on you, it's somebody else's fault, right? So I just love I just love the fact that you're coupling those two modalities.
Well, I'm glad you picked up on it, pal, because that's maybe the devil's in the details on how closely a person would read these things. So if you're not reading it as tightly as Seb just did, it's great that we're kind of calling it out verbally for the people who learn verbally. So thank you.
All right, let's dive into this is new. We've now caught up to yesterday, Steve. So you're all caught up. Let's dive into number 5. Mindfulness and presence. Ooh, this is going to be good. The Warrior's Way emphasizes being fully present in the moment and cultivating mindfulness. This involves developing awareness of one's thoughts, emotions, and actions, and learning to stay focused on the task at hand. By practicing mindfulness, warriors can make better decisions, maintain clarity, and effectively navigate challenges. That is awesome. Shaun, you want anything to flesh out a little bit?
I'll just kick it off by saying that I think it's pretty ironic or pretty rad. I'm not sure which one I want to go with for the word of the day, because how I started this whole podcasting thing back in the day was with a dude called Chance Burrows, and the podcast topic was mindfulness. Did you ever think we'd be doing this, Chance Burrows?
No, I didn't. But
all right, so
I picked up on it as soon as I read it.
That's
fantastic. Seb or Steve, got any thoughts on mindfulness and presence?
Yeah, I do. I mean, it's a critical piece, and it speaks to grateful. It speaks to being grateful for the, you know, for the small wins, for the circumstances that you're in that could always be worse, regardless of what they are. But it also brings another point, which is quite interesting. We're talking about action being action oriented. When a person is too internally focused, mindfulness can create issues. And so there is, and I think that just like anything else, if you look at, you know, character traits such as, say, narcissism, for example, well, in order to have narcissism disorder, you need to have, you know, 7 or 9 of the 9, you know, predicated behaviors, whatever. But somewhere in between there, some of those behaviors are actually beneficial. So I think we're often throwing the baby out with a bathwater when we're thinking about certain things, certain concepts. So mindfulness is critically important. But if you are somebody that's so internally focused that it's all you ever do, then you got to shut that noise down and start focusing on external factors. So other people around you, other goals, like the collective goals, those types of things. So just something to bear in mind when reading this.
Absolutely. Steve, any thoughts?
So when you read these type of things, I hear so many guys have different inputs of what they get out of it, which is actually kind of cool. But contextually, they'll all be hitting the same thing. They'll just say it differently. When I read text like this, anything that's self-development, dedicated, that works on individual strength. And this is to include like myself, because I use myself as an example for my daughters all the time. I like the emotions, the actions, and learning to stay focused. Staying focused can be hard at a young age when you're trying to develop something for a young kid. So there's certain ways that you have to make it more fun and appealing to them and shorten the time between instruction. As you grow older and stuff, right, you should have some of these filled in, but focused. So like Seb and I in SWAT, some of the things that we did and what you guys did, you just can't not be focused on certain things, because if you become lackadaisical and you're not aware of what's going on, not only you, but others can get hurt, right, or get killed. So anything with self-development, man, I dig these a lot. I mean, I'll probably get a copy from you guys. Write these down because I really like them, because they work on what we try to do as a family, but we also try to do as our individual self.
Mm-hmm. I really like that. The interesting thing, the one that I'm picking up on, is that the line it says, this involves developing awareness of one's thoughts, emotions, and actions, and learning to stay focused on task at hand. But the development of the awareness part, I think, is left out a lot of times. It's, you see a lot of these write-ups and motivational posters, or it's on Instagram and all kinds of stuff of just like, you need to be aware of your thoughts, you need to be aware of your emotions, and it's more of just all of a sudden like, oh, I can now, I'm aware of my emotions, right? But it is a developing process. It is a practiced, learned skill set that you have to work on. And when you're first trying to work through your emotions or post-traumatic stress or trauma or anything, the first win is knowing it happens, right? Oh, now I'm angry. Wait a second. How did I become angry? And just that moment of awareness, that's the first win. And then you can develop how to deal with it and how to manage it from there. And I just really love the fact that that's pointed out very clearly.
Well, just something based on what Steve said and what you've just said now, it threw a little thought into my head. And it's, for Steve's daughters, maybe they could have been like as awesome as they are right now, all by themselves. Like it would have just happened, organically unfolded, and they'd have managed the whole program successfully, and et cetera, aware of all their mindfulness actions. And so maybe that would have worked, but for sure, it would have worked a whole lot better if Steve was involved with it. And so to your point, Chance, maybe anyone who's considering improving their life, self-development, trying to do things better, not just for themselves, but for the team around them. If someone has identified that they want to get better at mindfulness, or they want to get better at being aware of what's going on internally, well, they can engage in that process and maybe try to do it well. But that doesn't mean that it's going to go well. In fact, it might not go well at all. And so that's why a guy like Steve, or Steve as the proxy of the external agency or the external variable that is manipulating the internal variables to some degree, that's where leadership or guidance or mentorship comes into play in respect to developing your awareness of who you are. You can do that through other people around you if they know how to do it well, like Steve does with his daughters, and I'm sure with other people as well.
Mm-hmm. That's fantastic. Any other thoughts? Good to move on to the next one. We're all good? All right, let's move on. 6, personal integrity. Warriors uphold a strong sense of personal integrity and honor. They act in alignment with their values and principles, maintain honesty and authenticity, engage in ethical conduct, possess the courage to stand up for what they believe is right, even in the face of adversity. They consistently hold themselves accountable for their actions and strive to be trustworthy. That is legit.
It's a big one.
Yeah.
100%.
To me, this number 6, I mean, they're all important for sure. But to me, number 6 is the big hitter. Just for me. I mean, everyone can pick their favorite number and say that's what it means to me to be a warrior. But number 6 is what it means to me for sure.
I like it. Seb or Steve, you got any thoughts?
I pick out 2 words in this is authenticity and trustworthy, right? So I like the statement of they hold themselves accountable, but those 2 words right there is authenticity. You see so many fake people now, and it drives me nuts. And give you an example is within a career field, you'll see a guy act a certain way at work, and he'll be a completely different way at home. And I've never understood playing 2 roles like that instead of just being authentic of who you are and blending into each area that you're at the time. But we see too many people that are we've seen it over our careers. People are they're completely different. And I've never understood that. Trustworthy is a big one for obvious reasons, right? And so you want to instill that into your kids, right? I want them to be absolutely trustworthy. And I would tell them, if you give someone your word, you better back it up. You have to back it up. But yeah, so those 2 kind of hit me, and I just love the holding yourself accountable. I've given many briefs with my daughters. We do lots of family briefs. I mean, we're in the car, we're in the grocery store, we're at home. We talk all the time. Communication is a big thing. And so when I would tell them, I've had to stand in front of 29 guys, and I've had to say, my bad, that was me. And I said, I will tell you, it stings. But everyone, that if you don't do that, and people know what you did, and you hide from it, they will know what you're doing. And you think you're getting away with it, and you won't. It'll be far worse. And so I've had my girls just this last week, my daughter went to districts for track. She was doing the 4x100. She false started. Her whole team got nixed. And so she held it together. She took ownership. And when I met her, so when she fails in CrossFit, right, it's just her. And you can manage it, right, Seb, a little bit better because it's just you. When you have a team, like we know,
it stings.
It stings a lot more. And I've always tried to tell them to hold strong to what you do to yourself. Do it with the team. It'll be okay. If you go to any collegiate or any Olympic and ask them, you ever false started? You'll see multiple hands raised. I would rather have it at 16 years old at a district meet than, in the Olympics. But it stings. It'll go away. Then they came back on this very same day, ran the 4x4, PR'd their time by 4 seconds, made it to state.
Awesome. Fantastic.
Nice.
Yeah.
Seb,
so on that, I mean, just imagine, Steve, if she stayed in the same mindset, is it possible that the next race would have had a similar outcome? You can really get into your own head and
Yes.
and essentially, what's the word? Exteriorize your fears and insecurity, right? And so it's really good. It's one thing to see somebody react to adversity over an extended period of time, but it's very difficult to react to adversity and have a quick turnaround time where right away you're able to put it behind you
100%.
despite having taken ownership of it, right? So that's a great quality. What I like to piggyback on what Steve was saying here about the authenticity piece. Authenticity is inversely proportionate with insecurities, basically. So if somebody has too many insecurities, the prospect of being themselves is terrifying. Because they generally think that, and perhaps sometimes there are character flaws that shouldn't be seen by everybody, but they definitely shouldn't be hidden by you. They should be addressed, right? And so if you find yourself, or if somebody finds themselves having a hard time being themselves, I'd be digging into that that's a big problem, right? Why do you have to have a front? Why is your persona different at home than it is at work? One of those two places isn't getting the real you, and it's causing issues, whether or not you care to admit it.
Yeah, or perhaps even both.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah,
I think that's a big part too. One of the things that I loved how you put it, Steve, was you have briefings with your girls, and it's I do something similar with my boys, but I just ask them random ethical questions because I want them to think about it, not just when when something happens and we go, okay, now we're going to talk about ethics. No, we'll be driving down the street and we'll talk about it and be like, wow, that guy cut that other person off. Do you think that's the right thing to do? And I'll get their answers from it, just to get them in the thought process of, is this the right thing to do? Is this the wrong thing to do? How do I feel about it? How does the rest of the world act? And to see that there is differences in all those things. And I think that's the beginning of it.
What you're doing there is what I love, is because you're getting your kids at a young age to communicate. Mm-hmm. Even communicate at some things that they don't fully understand. And it allows them to look at dad and say, hey, give me more information. I don't understand. So they work their way through communication. We see a lot of younger people that cannot communicate nowadays. Mm-hmm. And so with them being able to communicate and then talking to them, like, what is that? And they may not even know what the word ethics is. And when you explain it to them, they're like, oh, okay. And then they can explain their answer. Same thing that we do with our girls forever. I want problems solved. I want solutions. I don't want issues. And so if we have an issue, we've addressed it always as a family. Unless they're by themselves, they have an issue by themselves and they'll ask for guidance. But like you, man, we talk about everything in our family. Everything is open. Nothing is off the table. And it's because I didn't want my daughters ever to hide or sneak around. They've never had TikTok. They've never had Snapchat. But every dude that likes them, they all want their Snapchat. And they tell them the same thing. We don't have Snapchat. And they're like, why? It's too secretive. Don't need it. Mm-hmm. And it blows the other people away. Like, what? And we all know why kids have Snapchat. So mm-hmm. We raise them based on action.
I love it. There's a really nice piece to that if you need, there's points in time in life where you're going to need secrecy or privacy. There are. But the large scale of your life, if you are an authentic person, if you are authentic to yourself, you don't really need to hide anything. At least in my view. But that's
Seb's absolutely right. Seb, what he said, 100%. Insecurities. Every single one of my clients, from teenager to elder, all of their problems come around is insecurities and confidence.
Yeah.
And they just don't, and you have to explain to them, like, you're good at what you do. Own that. Be proud of what you do. And they become two different people, and most things revolve around insecurity. So Seb was right about that.
Mm-hmm. Love it.
I would say that, I find it difficult to be authentic all the time. I'm constantly battling with my own mind to just relax and be who I am in the moment right now, like in real time. How I'm standing, how I'm talking, how I'm breathing, just letting it happen without any forward-thinking plans, without considering what Steve's going to say in 15 seconds, what I said 10 seconds ago. It's hard to stay in the moment, man. Mm-hmm. It's hard to stay in the moment in conversations like this, where my only job is to just absorb in real time and react in real time. It's hard. I don't know. I don't know who does it amazingly well. I'd like to meet them.
You do. I don't listen. Yeah. How do you react to everybody? And you jump in with the meat potato thing, and like, you're quick-witted. You are very good at it. So look in the mirror. It's you.
Thanks. I appreciate you saying that. However, I will say this, that whatever level I do it at, I'm always trying to do it better. And I think that's important to state, that there's authenticity perhaps, but my authenticity will only be driven by my lack of accepting that I'm being authentic all the time. Because I got to pattern interrupt myself. I've got to check myself to make sure it's me, not a guy who's an imposter in the moment. And so I'm pretty hard on myself. I try to stay in real time, but I'm just I'm just throwing it out there. It ain't that easy, I find, to be authentic all the time. It's not the word vulnerable. I just find it a little bit disconcerting that everyone's seeing the real Shaun all the time. So I try not to show it as much as maybe I should.
But this could also be a byproduct of having been in a tier 1 super secretive unit, likely one of the most secretive unit in the world. I don't
You're probably right.
I don't
He's hitting the DJ booth again.
I love when he drops the mic.
I think he's gonna die here in a second. But the we'll get to you back. We'll get Seb back when he's not glitching out or hitting the DJ board. Did have one comment here I want to hit up before we go anywhere. Octavian BDS is a father to 1 9-month-old son. I'm taking notes right now. Much appreciated. So
cool.
We're making progress for those
What's
around
super
us,
cool is I wish I was Octavian a long time ago, because when I was 40 when my first son was born, and there was no user manual.
Right.
There still isn't. Now these kind of things are starting to pop up. It's not a written manual, it's a verbal manual. And if you pay attention to the details, if you listen closely, if you want to do things better, it's these kind of conversations and they're not common, by the way. People sitting down in real time, having authentic conversations, engaging in the almost lost art of conversation.
Yes, that is
You're
one
right
of the
about that. There's no, I always tell people there's no guidebook. There's no rule book on how to parent. And what you do is you learn from your experiences, right? Just like you do in leadership, you learn traits along the way that are good that you want to accept, and you make them part of you, and you discard the ones that you don't like. So parenting, you've learned from your parents. You see other parents do it as you grow up, and then what you've been through in your own experience, and then you just try to apply it. And so I wrote a book. My first book I wrote, we self-published it on Amazon, and it was Your Greatest Investment: Raising Strong Kids Through the Family Foundation, right? And so right there. But it's our thing about this was every person will invest their money and take good care of their money. And they don't realize if they're a family, their greatest investment is those kids. They carry your last name. They carry your DNA. They're going to do things in the world. So we just put more ownership in the kids. And to the note on the guidebook, it's not the way, it's a way. It's a way that worked. I didn't have data. I'm not a psychologist. I'm not any of that. And I stipulate that in the book. And the book is only 60 pages for people that just love short, direct communication. And so we laid out some things of how we raised our girls. And so
you might not be a psychologist, pal. You might not be anything to anyone other than this. And this is enough, in my opinion. You're a dude who's figured a few things out and has raised 2 good kids. Yeah. And to me, it's a success story that is rarely heard nowadays. So book or no book, psychologist or not, the fine example with your family is critical nowadays. I don't hear enough win stories like this on the regular. I hear a lot of the opposite.
Yeah.
And the opposite of not well done is becoming the norm and almost being celebrated for its mediocrity. And I don't care for it. So, good on you.
Yeah. Thank you.
I was looking through your Instagram when Seb hit me up with your info, and I was like, oh, sweet, new person to talk to. Hooray. And I was going through it, and the first picture I saw was, I think it was you talking to your daughter, and you're talking about coaching and being like, if your kids are in sports, you need to be able to tell them the hard things at times, and that this is the way to be it. And it clicked with me just a second ago was that you're holding them accountable, but you're showing them that you're holding yourself accountable to teach them. And I think that is another fantastic point to bring up, in that if you're holding yourself to a high level of integrity, that you are going to be authentic and accountable to your own way, then that applies to the people around you, and it needs to apply to the people around you. And we got another subject for another day, but real friends should stab each other in the chest, right? Look someone in the eye and be like, that's not okay. We need to sort that out, and then work with somebody, and then cool, move on. But I think it's a key point is not only do you have to be accountable to yourself, but you need to hold others around you accountable as a part of being accountable to yourself.
I've used myself as an example for my daughters all the time on things not to do and the things that worked. So yeah.
Yeah. Shaun?
Well, I was going to say, yeah, it's good if your friends stab you in the chest and tell you what's what. But for sure, the moment that I've stabbed you in the chest, I'm going to pull my knife out because it's my favorite knife, and I'm going to use it on the next guy.
Yeah, you don't want to waste knives. I mean, they're expensive.
Dude,
Right?
I've only got one.
So that's your problem to begin with. Order more.
More knives.
You know, to what you said, Chance, I stand behind that 100%. I think it's very valid, but it also speaks to another thing, which is demonstrated behavior will supersede words any day of the week. Even with your kids, they are watching what you are doing, so you can say something, but if you act another thing, they will act that because they can decipher bullshit from reality. Right. And so it's critically important to understand. And this is why I have a contention sometimes with some of the social media world where people are putting on an act, so to speak, where they're acting a certain way, but when adversity actually does hit them, they don't take that as an opportunity to walk the walk and demonstrate that all the nice words that they were putting together are actually put into application in the arena of life. And so if such is the case, and if you're a person out there that's helping all kinds of people do all kinds of things, when you are tested at your own sort of narrative, you better step up, not just in words, but actually be present, be there to demonstrate what it looks like.
Yeah, not even step up, like crack it out of the freaking park.
100%.
You empty shell, empty word clowns. Sure. I mean, it drives me crazy. I'm not going to rant. Okay.
Just about there.
Steve started a few minutes ago.
Oh, it's Steve's fault, eh?
It's Steve's fault. Seb played into it, and now I'm not going to play into it.
You know what? We do a quick point before we move on to number 7 here, though. Octavian says, to Shaun's point, both my son's grandfathers passed a few years ago. Basically, I need to take notes because there's no old grandpa to help guide him. Dad groups and this kind of talk are key.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And he says, one cool thing I found is this Aussie course called Courageous Fathering, where the teacher interviews 28 random dads, and those 28 common men have so much wisdom. Yeah.
There's common wisdom out there, man. As soon as dudes sit down and start openly talking, the lost art of communication is literally what we're trying to encourage over here right now. And so I'm glad that Octavian is digging it. I'm so glad that I wish more people would tune in or more correctly, have these conversations with their friends. Take this pitch deck, all 7 points, which we've still got one left, and sit down with your buddies and have a chat about these kind of things. No one has to be a mega warrior to talk about these things. You can be whatever you are as a dad or as a mom. As a teenager, you can sit down and eyeball these things and have a conversation with your parents. There's lots of ways that this could be used well, I think.
Yeah, and then it will evolve as anything does. It will evolve and change, and when it does, you're going to reassess and you're going to continue. That speaks to your adaptability, and it's critical skills to develop.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. The key is that's how it starts. Conversation, right? That's how it begins. You go, oh, that's interesting. I'm going to go talk to somebody else about it, and then you can develop it from there. All right, number 7, service to others. The warrior's way often includes a component of service to others. Warriors understand the importance of contributing to the well-being of their community or society, and this can be through acts of kindness, volunteering, mentoring, or supporting others in their personal growth journeys. 100% for the team.
Well, this is where I talked about earlier in the podcast about compassion. You build your kids to be active, strong, find their career path, but be compassionate on the back end. And so through strength, byproduct is compassion, and that's a big thing for us.
Yeah, I love that. Seb, you got any thoughts?
Yeah, no, I think that's critically important, man. Like in terms of if you look at the levels of competence, when you reach a certain level of competence, you are now into shared competence, which is the 5th level of competence, right? So shared competence is exactly that. It's the mentoring, it's the helping others, it's the investing in the next generation. You know, it's one thing, and everybody's kind of concerned about the whole legacy piece, man. Like, the best thing you can do is to have a positive impact on as many people as you can while you are forced in those interactions, right? Like, it's not like I'm actively seeking to necessarily contribute to somebody's life, but once I get to a relationship with them, and when I get to know them, if there is anything that I can contribute to them to help them out, or to strengthen them, or whatever the case may be, then I'm in 100%, because those opportunities will come endlessly. Whereas having formal roles as a mentor or whatever may be limited.
Yeah. Volunteering is such a big one. I mean, it's super simple. There's lots of organizations that are just dying for volunteers. And, as Shaun always says, if you can't do it for yourself, do it for those around you. Right.
And an important piece on that, buddy, is like volunteering doesn't work too well for me, because when volunteer agencies get in touch, like then the next one doesn't, and then you've got 400 volunteer organizations that are asking for your time every single day. But that just doesn't work for me. I prefer mentoring. And that's with individuals or with small groups or large groups, whatever the case is, but not through a charitable organization or not through a volunteer organization. I freely volunteer my time with people that I know, or I can connect with, or I can see them, or I can communicate with them by an email or a text or what have you. Volunteer agencies don't work for me. And so the reason I say that, maybe I'm just a goof and that doesn't work for me, but I know who I am. I've tried it in the past. It doesn't work for me. And so I have to give my service to others through a different means. And it's kind of doing what I'm doing right now. And it's really good if you can find your service path, whatever that is to you. Once you're on it, once it feels right, get after it, because it builds on itself. It's a really satisfying feeling. The moment that I'm finished this podcast, my 2 podcasts this morning, it's a great start to my day. I feel like I've connected with at least one other human being, and I feel like maybe their life is a little bit better for it. And if it isn't, they'll hit me up later in a DM and we'll sort it out. But it's nice to be able to improve the world, I think.
100%. I think one of the best things for volunteering is do it when you're young, because it will give you myriads of experience and interaction with people and different styles of learning. I mean, you volunteered as a firefighter, right? For bushfire person. Right. I can't remember the name for some reason. My brain is dying, but but that gave you the experience of chopping down trees and working the fires and actually understanding what that's like. And it gave you the sense of service that it required. When I was younger, I did a lot of volunteering, and it gave me, again, a ton of experience. It gave me a really broad network of people that I talked to. I think there's a lot for it when you're younger. When you're older, I think it definitely needs to kind of steer towards a mentoring side, because you have the experience now, and now you can lend it to others versus just trying to gain experience through volunteering. Not to say that you can't volunteer when you're older.
That's how it worked for me. But what I'm asking people to do is sit down and think about how it works for them.
For sure.
Because you can pour your free time into all kinds of things, but you can waste your time if that's not your thing. So figure out
100%.
how service to others works for you, and then engage in that path.
Yeah, and also, if you select something that isn't your thing, you just won't do it. That's kind of like when people say, I want to start doing jiu-jitsu. That's cool. I found a club an hour and a half ago. Done. Like an hour and a half away from my house. It's not happening. It's very, very rare. If you're fully committed, you'll be able to make that work. But if you are fighting the urge of not going, having a club an hour and a half away isn't going to work. So you need, it's just a metaphorical sort of example just to exemplify that. But yeah, has to be workable.
100%. We're just about at time. We've hit all the points here. Any final thoughts on service to others? Everybody's good.
Do it.
All right, cool. So we're gonna shift back to here. I'll drop that out. But so far, fantastic conversation. Steve, first off, I want to thank you for being here. It's been awesome and getting up to speed real fast. But the any final thoughts on anything we've gone over today on the rules for not rules for the Warriors, but the Warriors way?
No, I appreciate the time to come on, and it was good talk, and good to see Seb again. And I really, I mean, what you guys put forth, I really like those, Shaun. Those are awesome. Those are really good.
Thanks, man.
Seb, any final thoughts on anything we've gone over today or yesterday?
Yeah. I echo what I said yesterday about and what Steve is saying now. I just think that it's a very workable piece, and hopefully people take it and do with it whatever it was intended to, which is create thoughts.
That is the way. Shaun, any last little tidbits? Anything on top of your head percolating?
Just thanks for showing up, Steve. It's great to get to know you. You seem like an awesome dude, and if you're a friend of Seb's, you're a friend of mine. So maybe we'll see you over here again.
Will do. Thank you, buddy.
I will be in contact. I'll make sure you're on here for sure. But yeah, and you know what I think we might do? Yes, exactly. Reel it in. As Shaun puts these out, I'm going to put them up here, and we'll keep discussing them. And as you develop this system, and then maybe we'll make it a collective system for those that want to be involved in the collective.
You haven't turned it into playing cards yet, buddy, so it's not quite full merch. So, you know.
But I'm thinking. I'm ahead of the game here. But yeah, as you develop this, as we develop it, as we talk about it, that allows us to learn, allows us to build, allows us to grow every day here on the collective. See y'all tomorrow. Chimo.
All right.
Chimo.